Welcome back to the First Last Podcast, the show from the first to last of Nerdum, where we descend into cinema's most stylish, unsettling, and blood-soaked corners. And this month, we're deep in the shadows of Giallo January, celebrating the Italian thriller genre where beauty and brutality go hand in hand. This week, we're taking a look at the quietest and creepiest entries of the genre, The House with Laughing Windows, the 1976 Giallo directed by Pupi. I'm not sure how you pronounce his first name. Avati, often described as folklore infused giallo. This film trades flashy set pieces for mounting dread, rural isolation, and a sense that something deeply fundamentally is wrong. Set in the decaying village, obsessed with a long dead painter and his disturbing artwork, The House with the Laughing Windows unfold with a slow poison. It's a film about secrets rot beneath the tradition and the kind of horror that creeps in quietly before revealing its true face. We'll be talking about how this film stands apart from more flamboyant giallo. Its use of atmosphere over spectacle, and why it's earned a reputation as one of genre's most haunting and disturbing works. So listen closely, watch the windows, and don't trust the smiles. This is First Last Podcast from the First to Last the Nerdum. And Giallo January continues with The House with Laughing Windows. All right. And I'm
Yes,
Tom.
sir.
I'm
Yes,
here with
sir.
ML.
Absolutely. Here, we are ML and Tom here, the first last of nerdum. We're gonna very quickly pay the bills here and then get on down the road for our. But I was happy to see this one and go over it. We had a little bit of a pre-talk, so I think we're ready to go. But you can always find me and Tom at the first last nerdum.com. You can also find us home base on YouTube, where you can always find us. Adding one at a time to our three different shows. First Last Podcast, that's our main show. We also have Flipping the Pages that we release every couple weeks or so, or when Mike remembers it or doesn't get busy. And we also have our binge-worthy show, where we look at the first three episodes of a series and tell you if it's binge worthy or not. But that being said, Tom, I know that you do a little thing, a little dance on Reddit occasionally, and occasionally they accept you, and occasionally they say no, thank you. How about this week?
Yeah. This week's been good. First last nerdum on Reddit. I post on different subreddits that pertain to what we're talking about. I've been having fun posting to the Giallo one. They've seemed to have accepted me, so if you're coming over from there, hello. I'm also on X under First Last Nerdum as well, and then I do believe Mike has some socials as well.
Sorry about that, Tom. I apologize. But yeah, that's
No
Tom's.
worries.
That's Tom. Yeah. Yeah, I too am also on X. And occasionally, me and Tom will have a discourse or have a conversation or bat about an opinion. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. Maybe you might have your own opinion, but yeah, we'd love to hear from you. You can find me at Pacific King Jewish _. And with that being said, we're doing this one. You picked this one out, 1976. We are going through it with the Giallos. This one, what made you want to pick this one this week to continue our series?
Well, the Arrow film put out a very nice kind of box set with the movie and and a little book that comes with it. It came out in December, so it's hot off the presses, and so it kind of caught my eye. The I think that little building that they created for the movie with the house with the laughing windows, it's very
Okay.
striking, makes you kind of curious about what's in that building. So yeah, I was kind of taken with the title and the look of it. So I decided it might be one perfect
Mhm.
for us, which makes it kind of interesting because it follows along with the rural folk giallos that we've been kind of traipsing along, because last week was very much Don't Torture a Duckling was more of a rural giallo. Evidently, most giallos take place in the urban setting with the killer in black gloves. You got the
Right.
flashy looks and the music, and we've kind of by happenstance, not by design, kind of picked the ones that are kind of rule. The one before that, Your Vices, was also kind of a rule giallo as well.
Yep.
So the only one that was kind of a traditional giallo was Opera that we started the month with. Yeah, which was kind of
Yeah, yeah.
traditional
This
and
one was the
also
more.
kind of yeah, Opera was sort of traditional, but also kind of on the edge and kind of trying different things as well.
Well, I think all of these. I can hear the boomer just cracking there. Uh,
Yep.
I can. I was going to say the thing that is true with all of these are the fact that we have a giallo is supposed to be A, B, and C. And all of them, even the splashy, showy, glitzy, more traditional, I guess, giallo and opera, it still does it its own way. And also these
Mhm.
do too. And this is no different. Um some of these, I love the quality of them. Some of them, like we enjoy, I think we both enjoyed last week's very much. And I think this one, I enjoyed this one a lot too.
Mhm.
This has so much connection. I kept being reminded of some modern films that we've seen when I watched this. There's some that kind of they kind of play with the same concepts, kind of you know like everybody's kind of like a block of people, like a blob of people, so to speak. Like there's you, and then there's them,
Mhm.
right? So and you
Mhm.
play with that if you can imagine how that could be played with, and you could really escalate the terror or the horror or the happiness or all those things above. But I was going to say what it reminded me of was Midsummer, and I mentioned this a little bit before, but it also if they were to make this today, I realized they would call this, because this one, the one thing that I did love about this, and I could easily see it be a thing, and we haven't really gone into the thing, but this one is a very deliberately paced out movie. It's not all at once, not like a giallo. You don't have the, like you
Mhm.
mentioned, giallos are fairly fast paced, fairly, there's something going on or there's something around the corner. There's always that possibility there that exists. And this doesn't have that in that way. But anyway, long way to say that this
Mhm.
would be, if this were made today, this would be what they would call, I think what they call elevated horror. uh, have you heard that term of art, Tom? And what are your thoughts here? I'll
Mhm.
throw it back to you.
Yeah, yeah. There's there. I'm sure there's some giallo nerds on the internet would that will say that this isn't really giallo. They say, Actually, you need a
Hey.
black gloved killer with the knife." But no, but yeah, I think if you have a narrow view of things, and also, I don't like movies aren't like going to the store and getting your labeled canned soup. Yeah, yeah. You gotta play around with the genre, and you don't have to be extremely
Right.
strict as you can. It could be a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and actually, yeah, the producer and the director, writer, Poopy or Puppy. I forget how they pronounce his name. They did pronounce it in the documentary I watched, and shame on me for not committing it to memory. But he constantly called it a horror movie, so he's in the camp of horror.
Okay.
There is the idea that it is giallo. I mean, you do have a lot of the elements of that. You also have a lot of elements of folk
It's a
horror.
mystery.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there is that mystery. You do have those elements of the guy investigating what's going on, and there is a creepy killer that you have to kind of figure out, who's actually doing the killings. But yeah, and like in our show League of Gentlemen, they ask how many killings. There's not a whole lot of killings in this movie.
No.
But yeah,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, as far as you were saying about elevated horror, yeah, there is that
Mhm.
element to it as well. But yeah, that's the one of the wonderful things about this movie is you could kind of spread it across a lot of different genres, and it fits kind of nicely in all of those.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and to kind of give credence here to kind of pull it back to like, what the hell are these guys talking about? This is just an Italian movie, and they're going nuts over it.
Mhm.
Like you had mentioned, this is about this painter or this guy that just kind of he's a restorer or whatever. And of course, in Italy,
Restore, yeah.
they have they have history that's thousands of years old, and these things are hundreds of years old anyway. This guy goes to different things, and he's the restorer. His name's Stefano, and he's hired to recover a disturbing church fresco that's tied to a dead painter, local dead painter. And
Uh-huh.
it kind of starts him off. I wouldn't say right off the bat because this again, you got to stick with this one a little bit. You gotta kind of give it a little bit of time to wind out. But you once you
Mhm.
stick with it, then you are drawn into it. I don't know about you, but I mean, it didn't take much for me. As long as it's something interesting, of course, I don't know what it is, but I tend to enjoy the Italian scenery and the ambiance and the atmosphere of these Italian films. And not just Italian, French too. I mean, I'm sure there's other ones and
Mhm.
Americans as well, American films as well during this era. But anyway, I'll throw it back to you because I sound like an idiot probably, but I'm just saying like
No.
I wanted to set that table and did. And you kind of go through, and of course, in all giallos, you also have kind of like these authority figures, these role types that go from between being competent to being mm, hostile part of the background,
Mhm. Yeah.
or just neutral and indifferent to the main players and actors in the thing. But anyway, I'll throw it back to you and see what you think.
Yeah, yeah, I've been enjoying a lot of Italian movies lately, and yeah, it's kind of like a different atmosphere. Yeah, especially with these 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s movies. They kind of capture it's little bit of a time capsule. And this movie's kind of interesting in the fact that it was filmed in 1976, but the movie takes place sometime during the 1950s. It's not readily apparent, but from the clues that you get
Mm,
throughout the movie, like the style of the car and the fact that they're talking about things that happened or people from the events that happened in 1939, and how old they are now. You can kind of guess their age in the movie. But yeah, like you said, the guy that restores painting is Stefano, played by Lino Capoliccio, Liccio, I think his name. And yeah,
yeah, right
does a
there on the
great
screen.
job. Yeah, he's I guess the best known actor in this movie. They're named actor. All the rest of them are lesser known at the time. And Lino, he reminded me of his looks of James McAvoy, that we covered last February in the cop movie Pig, filthy or filth, and
I
yeah,
can
he
see
had
that.
that look about him. And yeah, and so yeah, he comes to town as the restorer. He's been recommended by a friend, who we get introduced a little bit later. We also get introduced to the local teacher that's also the the local tramp or whatever, which he's kind of fixated on at one point. Which is kind of interesting. And then
Right.
she's kind of replaced by the much younger Francesca that he initially falls in love with. But yeah, the whole tone of the movie is kind of a laid back. There's like an unsettling nature to it. There's obviously later Twin Peaks had a little bit of vibe, and you were mentioning another movie, but
Yeah.
the people of the town, there's a mystery that they're not letting on to what actually is going on behind the scenes. They're
Right.
kind of leading
Right.
Stefano along, but they aren't really telling him all the truths of the town.
Yeah, yeah, they're definitely being and they're not being helpful and they're not outright casting it, but there's definitely some as he goes along, they don't outright push him out, which I think is funny. and well, of course, you wouldn't have a movie if they did, but um, as it's layered in, of course, it's a different sensibility too, for being the time and the place. Obviously, different than modern day. But I thought that it was fun um, when he would go here or there, and it's just very interesting how these jealous, like how they do the interaction with like the townsfolk. Well, this one happens to be more like a townsfolk type one, obviously, for which we'll get into here, and we will heads up way ahead of time if we go into spoiler territory. But like I said, it's very slow and plotting, and it brings you along. And I could see where the people just wouldn't be. It was perfectly fine for me, and it plays with you in a way to like where you hear this thing, and you as you kind of understand the villagers kind of suck. He he's just right place, right place or wrong place. I don't know. And his curiosity keeps getting piqued. And when he asks questions, that the people around him just pretend like nothing happened. Either nothing happened, or they just ignore it. Or they put the squeeze on him to like make him essentially kind of what do they call it? Gaslighting. That's what the
Right,
kids
yeah.
are talk about nowadays. Like this massive gaslighting around him, and I love the tension between. First off, it's just him just doing his job. And then, he kind of gets more tangled into these people inadvertently. And the more he gets tangled up into them, which would normally just be a normal kind of thing, it turns into a different way, and it causes all kinds of like psychological earthquakes, like where you just don't quite know, anyway, I'll throw it back to you and see what you and pause here and see what you think.
Yeah, yeah, so he gets brought to the town by the mayor, who is looking to attract more people, because evidently they have like hot springs or something that or spas, that water spas that that people had been coming to the town for, but the tourists kind of dried up, so they want to restore this fresco in the church, that to kind of revitalize the town and bring in some tourists that might want to see it. The priest that's in the church is kind of has some choice words for the fresco. Um, and so, yeah, the parts of it has been, I don't know if he's like restoring it, bringing back the images, or if he's like touching up and putting, recreating the images. It's not really quite clear. Although they said in the documentary
Hmm.
that they kind of had the painting, but then they also to cover it up, they had put like shaving foam. They sprayed shaving foam and let it dry, so it was covering portions of the painting, so that he was chipping away at the at the of the that
Oh,
for the actual making of the movie. But which is kind of interesting, and so
and
he
not
he
the
gets
thing. Yeah,
kind of,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and he was kind of
Makes sense.
the the restorer is kind of fascinated by the painter, and some of the townsfolk are willing to talk about him, about the painter, and some aren't. But he kind of learns. And it's almost like you are kind of wondering how much of the town knows, and how much did they, you're constantly kind of asking yourself, especially towards the end, when you start understanding what's going on. You start to wonder, have they led him to here? What are their ulterior motives? Did they bring him here because they know of the outcome,
Right.
or were they were they really wanting this to happen? Also, they did talk to the painter that actually did the paintings in the documentary, and he was told that he's kind of should do it like an ambitious amateur kind of painting. And you do go to, I forget whose house it is, a patron of the painter that has 7 of his works, and they're on the wall. And I was kind of really fascinated by the artwork. There's one where you see the painter. He does a nude a nude woman, but he uses his face for the woman, which is sort of a striking image. But there's a lot of kind of ambiguity as far as male female that kind of runs throughout this movie a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I could go back real quick to kind of set the stage for Act One,
Uh-huh.
of it's about arrival, assignment, and atmosphere. And the movie is pretty
Mhm.
aggressive about making you feel like an outsider, just like him. I was going to say too
Mhm.
that was very strong. From the second that Stefano shows up, too, I meant to mention. And he's supposed to do the Saint Sebastian fresco, do the job, get paid. Except like it's tied to this Lagani, a painter rumored to have created art out of well,
Pain or agony.
just use the one that we're looking at now, agony. Yeah. No, I mean that's what it is, and you don't think anything. You think nothing of this. You don't think anything of this. It's just old Italy. It's just something old, and it's art, and you don't think about it anymore. But there's just more. There's just something that peaks. It's just something that just gets into Stefano, and it kind of causes him. It just keeps bugging him.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, there
He's got some professional curiosity.
absolutely. Yeah, there's sort of like a three-pronged attack here. You've got like you got the church, you got the rural town, sort of the rural vibes, and you also have the history of fascism. This is 1950s, that's straight after, the World War II, and there's that vibe of fascism that has kind of the repercussions of what has done to the town, and the history of it that's kind of baked into it as well, which
Interesting.
it's just kind of underneath the surface, and if you wanted to kind of dig a little bit deeper,
Mm,
it's there, the suspicion, and there's to touch on the kind of leading him through things. At one point, he's staying at this hotel, and after a mysterious call that the hotel person is kind of listened in on, she kind of gives him gives feeds him a line that she's got all these tourists coming in, and he's got to leave. And so the town idiot of the village idiot, Leodo, who works at the church, has a place that he can stay at, and he leads him to this dilapidated kind of
right.
house, villa that I mean that village idiot could have a whole movie in and of himself, but yeah, and that
Oh
villa
man,
that he
that's
leads
what
him
I'm
to.
saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, he leads him to the
Yeah,
villa
and
to stay.
with the yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
But yeah, he leads him to the villa, and it's sort of like this building that's almost falling down, and the other tenant of it is this disabled woman that can't get out of bed upstairs, and you start seeing
Right.
hearing and seeing things that there may be another person upstairs as well. So you've got that tension of the building, and but yeah, the village idiot that has the place, that shows him the place. Yeah, he's got this fascination with mice and dead mice, and he puts a dead mice in the coffin of his friend that maybe it committed suicide, maybe he got pushed out, but yeah, there's a the whole mystery.
Right.
Everybody is kind of a interesting character in this. The mayor's sort of a smaller statured person. There's a lot of interesting visually, and
Uh-huh.
just the whole setup. But yeah, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah. The movie's doing this whole slow drip intimidation thing. You got people discouraging him, and then the violence starts to rise around him. And I love that the first half, and not to skate too far ahead, but I love that it makes you question if it's a normal human killer, we're cover up, something like that going on, or something weirder.
Mhm. Yeah, there's that whole that it flirts around with the supernatural kind of vibe to it as well. You you get
Right.
a definite answer by the end of the movie. But there are some questions. Yeah, and we could
Yeah.
get into those a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I was gonna say too, what was the box office like? This one was pretty solid for what it was, and I think that it explains some of the confidence. And it definitely feels like a film that knows that it can be patient with its storyline and its telling. It's very confident in that, and I appreciate that. I could see like where the whole that in the first 15 minutes of this, I could see like where people know about. Like there's just it's just not for them. It's already got a few things against it, maybe with it being foreign or and being this or that. And we've kind of covered this a little bit. The probably arguably the worst spots for any Italian film is the dubbing. That's not unique to us or anybody. That's just a casual observation that's been reaffirmed while we go back in the past. But I don't really, it doesn't really bother me too much. Like as long as the world building is good, what I'm seeing is good, and there's a draw or there's some kind of thing for me to pay attention, and to get there. There's a little, the act one has a little bit of romance. We kind of touched on a little bit. You get Francesca, the school teacher, and then that's normally your safety valve. But in a movie like this, normal life element just becomes another hostage.
Yeah. Yeah, the movie, I gotta say that the 4K also has like an hour and a half long, so a feature length documentary on it that talks to all the people that are alive today, which are a lot. The one of the producer brothers and the writer director is featured prominently in here. Leono, who plays Stefano, he's in here. You also have Francesca is in there. They also have the photographer, sound mixer in there. But a lot of people, you get a real clear view of the movie. So if you're into this movie and want to know more about it, that documentary is really good in this. But they kind of set up the stage. Yeah, the movie. The guys who made it had made a movie previously, sort of a romantic or erotic movie that got
Mm.
claimed for obscenity, so it got taken out of the theaters. So it didn't make any money. They were kind of in dire straits. They decided to make a real quick, cheap horror movie, which this movie was. But it's a testament of their quality because since the movie didn't have a very big budget, they only could afford the main actor. Everybody else that was in the movie or worked on the movie had multiple jobs. They didn't just do one job. They did talk to like the guy who was the photographer that would take pictures on the set. But he's also the sound mixer, and also he had
Mm.
the nice car that you get to see at the beginning of the movie where the mayor's waiting for Stefano. That was the guy's car. He said that everybody kind of got into different cliques, different groups, and he said that
Oh,
he kind of got in
right.
with Francesca and the guy that played the village idiot. They were kind of became a good solid group. And so the director would make fun of him and call him Manson because at the time, Charles Manson had his group of followers. And so he was calling him Manson because he had
Groupies,
those
right?
two
Smart.
groupies kind of followed him around. But yeah, so you get to what I love about these old documentaries and these people talking about it's ancient history at this point. So there's lot of if you see interviews and special features about current movies, they still have to be respective of everybody's feelings. Whereas with these older movies, people let their dirty laundry air out, and so you get a maybe a clearer view of things. And like some of the people were really liked Lionel, friend, the lady that played Francesca. She was talking about her very first scene that she made of the movie. And she wasn't even sure she wanted to be an actress at this point. She had done one movie, and they kind of talked her into being in this movie. Her first
That's
scene
so
is
funny. Yeah, yeah.
there's there's a kind of a violent
Right.
scene. We won't get into spoilers at this point. A violent scene with the village idiot, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, she said that was pretty rough being their very first scene, and he was very respectful during it, and kept asking her if she was okay and everything. So maybe that's why they kind of had a little bit of a bond. But Stefano was talking about the village idiot, and he was saying that the guy that played him was a bit of an asshole, but he became, because he kept trying to tell jokes that no one liked, and he said he became he kind of got to know the guy,
Oh,
and
right.
by the end of the
By heart.
movie, and he was kind of cool. But yeah, you could tell there was kind of division in the set as far as who hung out with who. But yeah, it was kind of a testament of the movie that it was done so cheaply, and it made such an impact, and is still very much in the minds of today. Like they just happened to find that building that they were able to do that with. They found that building, and they found the owner of it, and he said, "Well, we're getting ready to tear it down, so do whatever you want with it." So they were able to paint those little lips, those mouths on the building. They also found that villa, which was kind of just barely hanging on as well. So they kind of lucked out on their locations, because none of them were sets. Although there's a upper level of the villa that's shown in the movie that isn't there. That is another location. So, but it all kind of seems kind of seamless in that respect.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, when, I think we're heading crossing over into act 2 for sure, where the fun stuff is, but I was
Mhm.
gonna say, but in act 1, though, you still had you have the bones of it, you have the job, you have the town hostility, you have the painter myth, you have this uneasy love story, and the sense that, the closer that Stefano is getting to the truth, the more the movie starts to remove exits for him.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
by the time we get to that, it feels like inevitable. And the
Mhm.
opportunity for him to kind of just show up, paint, do his job, uh, shut up and move along,
Yeah.
close down to him. And for whatever reason, the town, it is kind of weird how he gets he's not he certainly is discouraged from a certain point of view, but he also is not, he's also kind of, I don't know. It's just, I love that interplay of him kind of being drawn more into the thing than instead of away. Instead of like, normal horror movie would be like, get the hell out, like run the other way, but this isn't like that. But it does kind of, I'm not going to shadow over it too much, but inevitability, or
Mhm.
a closing in. I don't know how you put it, or how you want to put it. I don't know what do you think?
The noose is tightening around around Stefano, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's trying
Yes.
to.
There you go. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, he's trying to find answers, and everybody seems to be tight-lipped. They don't really want to talk about it, but he does meet Coppola, who is kind of on the outs with the village. He's kind of a drunkard, but he has answers, and he's willing to give them to Coppola, and the actors themselves became real close. Leno, the guy that plays Stefano, talks about how close he is got with Coppola, and Coppola, the director said that the guy that played him, which his name is let's see, Gianna Cavina, was actually kind of going through it emotionally at the time. It was a bit suicidal himself, so he thought that this character would be a good outlet for him, and so yeah,
Mm.
you can really tell that he's kind of there's a lot of pathos to the character, that you can really see, and I guess the fact that he was kind of going through it in reality was kind of helped with the performance of him. But yeah,
The
so Coppola,
intensity.
he's yeah, absolutely. And so he knew the painter when he was a small child. So and he's much older now. But yeah, so his insight into who the painter was is very beneficial in Stefano getting deeper into the mystery. Although, you kind of question how far Stefano is in this, because at one point Francesca's decided she's done with this, she wants to go, and Stefano's like, okay, yeah, let's get out of here, and then circumstances lead them to stay. But that was one of the more unique things about this movie is that I found was that, most of the time when you're in a horror movie or something like this movie, the people arbitrarily want to stay. They want to see the mystery to the end. Whereas, Stefano, he's ready to go. Circumstances leads him to stay, but he's ready to go.
Yeah, well, there is that kind of tension. Of course, it is shown, and he just doesn't. He- Circumstances are right, and those
Mhm.
circumstances kind of maybe they connive, maybe they invent reasons. Well, I don't want to get too far ahead, but I was going to say too. You what when you noted when you had mentioned when he was pushed out of his hotel, he gets evicted.
Mhm.
Some pretext that it's just whatever looks semi normal, I guess, inconvenience. But
Mhm.
it's kind of taken him. I kind of saw this too as like slowly removing creature comforts for him and like slowly putting him into the dungeon. Like,
Yeah.
and we're kind of
Mhm.
seeing that in real time, like where his living situation is normal, and then gets smaller. It's kind of closing out on him, like the noose, like you had mentioned. Or it works on many levels, I would say.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder how much of it is orchestrated by the village, and how much of it is just the natural flow of it. Yeah, there's a lot of quote unquote suicides going on in this town as well, and you wonder how many are actual suicides, which I'd probably say zero, but but yeah, there's that aspect, and Stefano's catching on to, he at one point he finds out very soon that that the hotel person is lying to him, that there's really not any tourists coming in to take his spot, and he's going to the
Yeah,
villa, by force. But yeah, and he has to kind of wonder about that. And also there's kind of a weird dynamic with him and Francesca, which they kind of build a
I was
relationship.
going to
I
say
don't know
that.
if it's, yeah, there's usually a lot of chemistry in a romance, in a movie, but you don't really get that. There's kind of maybe an awkwardness, which is kind of more realistic portrayal. There's also that thing where there's like these snails in her refrigerator, which I had so many questions about, but it was kind of weird, a weird scene. But yeah, there's all sorts of kind of weird flavors to this village.
Well, yeah, you're right about that. She is this, the school teacher substitute. Like they have this relationship, and the movie makes that romance feel like it kind of feels like breathing air in a room that might be poisoned a little bit. The closeness and this is me painting a picture a little bit, but allow me, if you will. Like the closeness is never, it's not neutral, and it just seems like to me that's kind of like where the edge, the lid of paranoia on her and him, kind of not so much for him, but for her and this thing. I'm not saying she's involved. I wouldn't go that far, but I will say though, it is kind of weird, and to say it's just another reason for him to stick around or for him to kind of keep it. You wonder, it creates that's creating leverage for somebody else who might want to try to isolate him and kind of keep him put. And that's why I
Right.
like Avani's. He uses that comfort as a way to like raise the stakes, and like make it more intensive and more inevitable. Put that way. Oh, see and see what
Mhm.
you say.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's that mounting tension that really kind of ramps things up, and but yeah, so yeah, this there's like you were talking about the different acts. There's sort of like that buildup of suspense, and it's not like not really done kind of traditionally. You know, you don't have a detective coming in. You don't really have any police activity except towards the very end
None.
when Stefano's trying
Right.
to
Really.
show
Yeah.
where the cards are being exposed, and he's you know, dealing with them and them kind of doubting him as far as what's going on. But you know, there's that interplay between Stefano and the village, the characters of the village, and just seeing how they interact with him. Again, there's not a complete one-to-one comparison, but I did get a bit of Twin Peaks vibes as far as, you know, the the weird kind of oddball nature to the various people in the village, and how they, especially the priest. There's this sense of everybody kind of being a little off, and especially the priest. There's something not quite right about him that you know, things kind of develop towards the end. You kind of see why, but yeah,
Are you
there's
talking about
that.
Coppola?
Oh, no, Coppola, yeah, he's sort of like the only person that he could kind of relate to and talk to. No, I was talking about the
Okay. Yes.
priest.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Oh, right. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just talking about, yeah, there's sort of a weird nature to the priest that's kind of almost creepy.
I got that. Yeah, I got that from a lot of different people. And just
Yeah.
being honest, not necessarily from Stefano or from Francesco, uh, per se,
Hmm.
but well, it's just like these are these people. I, it also, in a weird way, this also kind of reminded me of one of our binge worthies, Welcome to Derry. Like where it's kind of a there's similar-ish concepts in play a little bit, but not quite on the nose, obviously. That
Hmm.
tension, like where it's just trying to screw with him, and and I really, it really, I don't know. So I don't know. We're working our way through here, in the second act, and it gets a little bit more serious. When we get a little bit more of a mystery going on, and a little bit more opposition. You got the priest that's weird, or that has just the weirdness with them, and I don't know. Uh,
The vibes.
I guess we've been here. Yeah. It's like the town is shifting. It's like there's a certain part, like where you cross over into the movie, like where there are subtle warnings from the town, and just the people, and just the situation. And then it starts to go like pretty quickly, pretty solidly over to consequences.
Hmm.
Like that's where that's like that intimidation, that leer, that paranoia kind of turns into maybe, a little bit more than a stern look. I'll say that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the third act, it really kind of brings it to a crescendo. But yeah, if are we ready to get into spoilers? We do learn about Stefano learns more about the painter and find out that he has two sisters, and his and a
Right.
mother. They go to Brazil, to Rio de Janeiro, and they come back, and it's only the sisters and the painter, the brother. And we learned that there's some weird goings on between the sisters and the brother, both sexually, and some very off things that are going on between them. And the painter has self-immolated. He's set himself on fire and is presumed to be dead. So there's the mystery of whether or not the sisters are still alive, and whether or not the painter is actually still alive.
Right.
So we have those elements going on. So with a lot of giallos, you have various people that it could be that the killer could be.
I was going to say too, and the paintings are actually representative of real killings, like of like what this painter has done
Hmm.
to other people, like, but that this image of corruption, so to speak, for the sacred, the profane, like the just the
Hmm.
things that represent that the town seems to embrace. And yeah,
Hmm.
weird things, absolutely. That's why it's like got a True Detective, I don't know, elevated horror like Midsummer, like where they hint and wink at, something. And I love that. And the other thing too is they don't show you like too much. And that works so much better when they don't show you that and they build that. It helps build that. I'm glad that they did that. And that's something that would have been ruined, uh, just massacred today. Like if they were to try to do something like that today. Um, but yeah, the it goes from intimidation to violence. You start to have people. You start. This one also doesn't have a lot of body strapping, like like Giallo. Like sometimes it's like you turn around and like every other room they go into is like boom. Oh, there's black gloves. Somebody's getting it. But
Uh-huh.
um, the outsider is causing this trouble. And that's from the town's perspective for him. And it's just kind of bizarre. It's just like it doesn't make any damn sense of like that. Aside from like it goes from like it just being like the painter and the weird, just a weird thing, and you just have weird fucking corners all over the place where it's the priest or the village idiot or that woman or even the person that was trying to help him out or be a buddy or whatever. Shit, even Francesca is I mean, it's just off. It's just kind of things like look normal. If you give like an 80% glance, like just kind of walking through, that's whatever. And then you kind of start to think about it. You kind of catch up and it's like, wait a second, that didn't make any sense. Like why did that happen? Or why is that going on?
Yep.
They there is a force that does not want him to keep asking and looking, but he does. He does.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's that the ghost, the overarching shadow of World War II and fascism is kind of laying over that and kind of amplifying that, at that time, during the World War II, I'm sure you really weren't sure if you could trust your neighbor and talk to them without them maybe going to the authorities if you said something out of line. So there's that sense of kind of mystery and kind of doubt that kind of runs through the movie as well on this. But yeah, there's very interesting multi layers to this movie. And again, I've got to reemphasize how cheaply this movie was made, and it was quite a bit of a success at the time. But it really shows you that people that are a cheaply made movie doesn't have to look cheap, it doesn't have to play cheap, it doesn't have to be cheap as far
Right.
as the story. That if you get people that know what they're doing and have a passion for the movie and really want to make something good, they can go through and make something like this movie, and it looked like $1 million on the screen, but be done very cheaply. And one of the things, the director doesn't even feel like this is his best work. He's kind of puzzled by its legacy of it being so popular now. That
Mm,
that he
that's so
likes
funny.
some of his
Very
movies
humble.
much more than this one. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think if you do a good horror movie, Giallo movie, that kind of stands the test of time. The fact that it was set in the 1950s, it already had sort of a timeless nature to it. But it really is kind of a timeless kind of movie. You kind of step into it. You could probably go to a village in Italy that still looks like this place, and kind of maybe have some of the same characters kind of wandering around. But yeah, it just kind of has that sort of kind of almost fairy tale nature to it. You just kind of imagine these little villages. It doesn't even have to be in Italy. You could probably find a small little village here in America that's kind of has the creepy, maybe not the same ancient architecture, but still have that
Right.
kind of weird distrust of outsiders kind of vibe to it.
That's where I like, and I'm not going to give away the ultimate spoiler here because I want people to go find it and discover it themselves. But the
Hmm.
one thing that I really, really loved about this is that you think, or you think that Avanti, the director, is you think that he's setting you up to think. that you think that you're ahead of the film, and then later uses like a deeper reveal to to blindside you. And I like that. I like that complicated nature. And it I don't want to go. I don't know how far you want. I don't know if how far you want to go into the old, really like letting the cat out of the bag. I won't, but it's that's what I love about, and that's the other thing too, is the less that you kind of know coming into a movie, and then you kind of think you got to figure it out. It's like, no, you don't. And I'm not really good at that anyway. Like, I'm not the guy that's like, 15 minutes in the film, oh, it's that guy. Oh, I know, I'm not that guy. Like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing that. Like, that can be fun sometimes, but um,
Mhm.
it 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 makes you the way that things happen toward the end with Stefano. It forces him to get to a corner to like
Mhm.
where he can't back out. Like, because if he did, then essentially it would be,
Mhm.
I just think that it's just very interesting how rock in a hard place, we find, that we find this spot, and then, somehow, anyway, I'll throw it back to you. I'll let you play it by ear. What are your thoughts? And you're right.
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of what you said as far as like, it is really amazing how little resources went into some of these movies that we've covered that are just really good, good looking, and also good acted. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's good. Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, I guess we won't go into the ending, but yeah, it kind of blindsides you a couple of ways. There's a couple of scenes where there's some reveals that kind of shock you. Yeah, no, I was a bit surprised. Yeah, I just was kind of going along with the movie. Was it actively really trying to figure out the mystery of it? So yeah, it was a bit surprising, and much like our previous movie, Don't Torture a Duckling. There's some interesting takes on the church and Catholicism. Whereas last week, Lucio Fulci, the director of writer of that movie, is was less of a devout Catholic, and he kind of had his questionings about the religion. Whereas in this movie, I learned that the director is very much a devout Catholic, and so his kind of take on this is kind of interesting. Um, I will say, just this is a spoiler, so you might want to skip ahead. I'll do the jazz hands when I'm done with the spoilers. So if you want to skip ahead, but yeah,
Fire away, sir.
one of the,
You have the floor.
but yeah, the guy, the director or writer, one of the writers of it, he said that the priest is kind of based on a kind of a real person, that they kind of exhumed a former priest of the church, and from the bones they found out that it was a woman. So one of the stories that him and his friends, when they were young, kind of made up, that kind of scared each other, was of this female priest with these long claws that would chase people, and that terrorize people, and that was sort of the genesis of the story of this film. So yeah, that was my spoilers. But yeah, I just kind of found that interesting.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say sorry, I'm just finding my notes here. Well, I don't want to go into that. I want people to find out for themselves. That's the thing, is like some of these things. Yes, this film has been from forever ago, but at the same time, surprise is a surprise, and the most wonderful ones happen when you and that means that they could be good, shocking, or somewhere else. And what I've discovered with these giallos is it's just the tone and the depth. Yeah, it's not black gloves or whatever. I'm not really a stickler on that. I don't know. Obviously, I'm sure if I was alive during those times and I had gone to see those films then, or read those novels and then see the films or whatever, then I would maybe have a different opinion. This feels different than a normal standard giallo. It has so much more depth,
Well,
in a way, and you can argue at certain parts, like where there are pivotal points that completely change the tone of the movie. You could argue that's where the giallo dies, and that's where the folk horror kind of takes over, or what.
Mhm.
I don't think it's that quite straight down the line like that. I think it's a kind of a little bit of everything. When you make colors, you mix a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then it becomes a new thing. Even in itself, but like there is a little bit more of a mystery like that. There is that supernatural kind of something else out there that is, that makes the community kind of the villain in a way, from a certain point of view. But I don't know.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts? So like before this and after it, and then I guess how does it rank as far as you? I kind of gave you the comparison. I think that this shares DNA with Midsummer. This is like the early, kind of unique version of that that became so thing like that, and Witch as well. That has kind of a completely different side of it, but we're all kind of dealing with this kind of evil or a force or that can't be easily explained. Or at least
Yeah.
it draws you in more anyway. I'll throw it
Mhm.
back to you and see what you think.
Yeah, yeah, and just to kinda get back to the hard line as far as what a giallo is, what a slasher is, whenever, when the, kind of the movement or that genre is being created, that's the best time 'cause you're playing with the conventions, the thing that the thing is hasn't been nailed down yet. You don't have your checklist of, "Okay, you have to have this, you have to have that." And I could argue that whenever, a genre has really strict rules and it's sort of like when that genre has died, there's no life left. Because if you're kind of going through and having to,
Mm,
make it, go through the checklist to make sure you have everything for it to be a certain genre film, you're kind of missing the point. You need to be creative. You got to go outside the box. You have to kind of test yourself, kind of go that extra distance. And whenever you test the boundaries, you do create something like this movie that is kind of unique in and of itself, and it's going to be imitated further down the line. And I will say that, yeah, it's kind of hard to find this movie. I know you could buy it or rent it on Apple and on Amazon, but the best way and the really good way to see it is with your physical media. There's a beautiful 4K of it out there. I think there is also a Blu-ray, so if you haven't made the jump to 4K, you could do Blu-ray. But yeah, the look of this movie on this 4K is just beautiful. It looks like it was shot, yesterday. And a lot of times they're real grainy. I'm not really huge into the grain on my film. This one's much less grainy. Great soundtrack. But yeah, I gave you a couple of links if you want to pull those up. Arrow has a sale going on Barnes and
oh
Nobles. Barnes and
yes,
Nobles
yeah.
having an Arrow sale, 50% off of all their Arrow titles, including the House with the Laughing Windows. So you can get it for $30. I got it locally at my Barnes and Nobles. They had it in stock. So I went and picked it up for $30. But yeah,
No
there should be
way.
a Barnes and Nobles close to you. If not, you
That's
can
a good deal.
order it online. The sale's going through the 2nd of February, so you still have time. All this week and a little bit of next. But yeah, and then I also gave you a link for the regular Arrow. So yeah, Arrow has a bunch of stuff. You got The Mask, you got if you're into Steven Seagal, you got Under Siege. But yeah, they have a little bit of everything. We did cover
Solid.
Outland. They just recently released a really good
They
4K of
did.
that. So if you want
Very
to get
good.
a physical media of that, so yeah, that's all I gotta say on this. But yeah, very very good movie.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
think I said, I think I said, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was kind of struggling with how I rank the giallos, but yeah, this one's so different from last week's. I can't really. It's not like really apple and oranges. Both equally really good movies. But yeah, and we have maybe a treat, a kind of a bridge movie next week if everything works out. So look forward to that. But yeah, very good movie. I'll hand it back to you for the final thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'll try to distill it down, and I'll just try to two camps. I'll just say what maybe doesn't work and what maybe does work. And then there's no way I'm going to rank this in the Giallo. It's way too soon, way too early, especially since I've invoked a couple of really favorite films. But when I invoke things like Midsummer and Possession or Tenebrae or whatever, it usually means I'm probably on the side that I really liked it. But I'm kind of putting that side. I can see like where the if you're in it for giallo, like Tom was mentioning, a framework giallo, it's got to have big set piece kills and constant suspect juggling and some kind of high style spectacle, some kind, usually in or out around the Hollywood or not Hollywood, but like the center of attention, like whether it's a play or opera, like we called or whatever. This can, compared to that, this can feel slow and even like withholding, deliberate. Like I can see like where that can frustrate folks who want the mystery to pay out cleanly. Detective story, like whatever. Even though a giallo really is never in that anyway. Not really. But the director's design is more about that dread accumulation than the clue gratification that you might get in a noir. And I think I'll talk about like why it does work. And I think it does because it works hardest like if you can let the atmosphere and the kind of the background, the people be the weapon approach. I think that the film makes like a normal like village life feel predatory. Hostile. Maybe not. Maybe that's too bold, but it's a rare flavor, and it's a different way than like a flamboyant giallo lane. And that's not wrong or right or anything like that, but like that you do want to see this in high quality, and I'm glad I was able to do that as well. Because just like a fresco, you want to you got to clean it up. But it is funny how that was the plot device. But that isn't random. I'll let people dig into that. I think we're kind of running a little bit out of the rope, out of the tape. But the in game, I think it works because the scariest thing isn't the killer's face or whatever. It's the whole place deciding that you're not getting out. And I'll leave it there. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think, the only thing that kind of bothered me about the movie that was really at the forefront when I looked at the movie was the house with the laughing windows. I really wanted them to really go into that house and really dig around. You never really get to see much of that house on the inside.
No.
That there's kind of a missed opportunity, I think, there. But yeah, there's that overwhelming mystery to this movie, and again, I invoke the words of Twin Peaks. This movie doesn't answer all the questions. There's still plenty of questions by the end of the movie, and
Yep.
the only interference by the studio for this movie is they wanted to have more of a positive ending, and so they made a concession with them. And I'll just say that there's a police siren at the end, and there's a hand on a tree that makes it kind of go one way or another. But there's still a mystery as to what the outcome is. You really don't know. You kind of have
Right.
to go with your own feelings as far as what actually happened. And I really enjoy, yes, some people may find that frustrating because the mystery is not completely revealed. It's not completely answered. A lot of the questions about the village is never really answered. But I kind of like that. I like that. I like the movies where not everything is wrapped up
Right.
in a pretty bow. You have, you could actually kind of sit around in the theater if you're able to, or go take a coffee after the movie and kind of discuss
Yeah.
discuss the movie and
Yeah.
the
Think.
implications of what's going on. So yeah, that's very much a fun thing aspect of this movie.
I'll tack on to this and then we can end it. What
Uh,
you're talking about, but the way that it does it though, it's more, there's an authentic way and there's an inauthentic way. And what I'm talking about is like when a movie ends it like that on purpose so that they can have a sequel or a follow up, whatever, like, but that was like by design. And when that happens, you can tell and it feels hollow. But when it is more authentic and organic to the storyline, um, it comes to mind. Was the Nick Cage movie we saw a couple years ago? It was the winter one. It was he played a weirdo with the long
Mhm.
hair and a weird voice. The thing
Long
anyway,
legs,
it it
long
it it
legs.
it
Yeah.
leaves there it leaves some things out there. Yeah, 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 long legs. Yeah, whatever, like that, or, other ones that you've kinda touched on that you have seen in this ad that you've given good praise that we might check out later this year, like weapons or something like that, or even a barbarian or whatever. Anyway, all of these kind of things, these are very cool things that you can watch and you can really enjoy, and they don't tell you anything. They just tell you a little part of the story, and then it's up to you to decide if you believe what you're seeing. Put it that way.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But well, I really enjoy this one, Tom. This was a great pick. I'm glad that we found this Giallo January, and we continue on. And next week will be even more awesome. And if you
Mhm,
want to know what me and Tom really think about the ending and the mystery and what we think is going on, you can join our Patreon. And you can pay us money each month, and we'll give you insider access to that. Of course, that's
mhm,
kind of a joke because that doesn't exist. But
mhm.
anyway, yeah, I'll throw it back
No,
to you,
no,
Tom, and
we're
see
we're
how you want to end it.
we're yeah, yeah, you might have heard that, Netflix has podcasts, and we'll be switching over to no, no, not neither of that as well. Maybe in the future, but no.
Right, right, right. I
No,
know.
all I have to say is, we're closing out Giallo January, but we may have a little extra bonus next week. Maybe a little bit more Dario, just a little tease there. But that won't be the end of Giallos for us. We'll revisit them. We're very much in the Giallo state of
Mhm.
mind, so we're definitely in there. So we'll say ciao for now, but not forever.
Indeed. I've been Mike.